involves a world famous snake breeder who's married, and apparently his wife is accused of murdering him. His wife is accused of having an affair. So, sort of a love triangle. It's a case that took a few years for investigators to solve and to bring to trial. So we got the prelim coming up on Monday, but we got an opportunity to speak with the victim's brother. Ben Rennick is the victim in the case. His brother Sam spoke with us. Let's take a listen.
He was a catch, and he'd been dating the same girl for a long time. That relationship ended, and the second it did, Lindley was at his front porch, and she was pregnant within 30 days of meeting him or knowing him. She immediately moved into the property and the family, and we made the best of it. But like I said, my mother would have not been happy. We had a falling out a little bit before all this happened. Thanksgiving, my father had passed the year prior, and if my father took his life on Father's Day, 2017. Our family business was going under, and my father was going to go to jail for about 10 years for mail fraud. I had to testify to a grand jury against him. In fact, my testimony probably sealed that fate. He wasn't going to go to jail, and when he took his own life, he saved our family farm. If he hadn't have done it, we would have lost everything. Ben would have lost his business. He would have lost his home, everything we had. Because he did what he did, that didn't have to happen. On Thanksgiving dinner, when we went around the table to ask what we're thankful for, after thanking for my father and all he's done, Lindley said that she was so thankful for her financial success. And that was a major red flag. She wouldn't have had anything if it wasn't for Frank. She didn't have any financial success. But at that point, things started to turn sour. When he did pass, all of the land went to Lindley, which she immediately then sold and had me ejected from the property, along with my children. It was a trifecta. I had just put the farm in Ben's hands. He'd just taken out a $1 million life insurance policy, and he just sold the majority of his snakes to a major buyer. It was apparent to a lot of people, not just myself, that something was wrong. In addition to all this, she'd taken about $40,000 in donations from the reptile community. She didn't need any money, but she took it. Just a lot of things, a lot of red flags. And even prior to the arrest, I had tried several times to amend our relationship, even after all that we've been through. And I was completely unsuccessful. Ben's children, who I've not been able to communicate with. They, after the arrest, went with Lindley's father, and then after, and now there's 3 children, because she had the 3rd child with one of her lovers, and that child was taken by the father, Matthew and Emma. Emma is Ben's biological daughter, and Matthew was Lindley's son, which Ben raised and treated like a son. They went with her sister, and they are in the care of her sister now, but after several attempts to communicate with them, I still have not been able to do that. It was awful. I got a call from Lindley, who was at the facility, and screaming. She couldn't make any sense. I thought she ran off with a dog or something. I went to meet her, and the kids were there. After the police arrived, and then I was told that he was actually murdered by a gun, by a weapon, and I found that very hard to believe. I couldn't wrap my mind around it. As this progressed, there were, as I mentioned, a lot of red flags with Lindley. We shouldn't make any sense to any of us. Why she isolated herself. So she didn't speak to me. She just sold the farm out from underneath me and asked us to go. um, wouldn't let me see the kids or my brother's remains or communicate with me at all. And it made a lot of people um, uncomfortable. I think greed has everything to do with this. Ben was very generous, but he had a lot and he was very successful. And uh, I think that they simply wanted what he had. And and what was going to happen is because she was having these affairs, Ben was going to find out. Her business, her spa was failing. It was Ben had allowed Lily to put a lot of money into that business, and it was falling apart. The pressure of that business falling apart with the added uh, uh, relationships, affairs that she was having, um, she wasn't willing to walk away with half. She, instead of taking the consequences of having the failed business and having multiple affairs, possibly getting divorced from Ben, she wasn't willing to do that. I think that I don't know what she promised Michael, but um, unfortunately, I think that it was sheer greed that drove these people to do what they did.
And again, our thanks to Sam Rennick for joining us and giving us some insight into what happened. Again, this is a trial we're tracking on Court TV. Preliminary hearing scheduled for Monday. We, of course, will have much more on that story as things evolve.